That's greatwallrestaurant.us.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. In the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle, in the afternoon drive, as well as also in the evenings. And of course, BAM, Blue Amp Media, blueamp.co on Substack. That's Blue Amp Media at blueamp.co on Substack. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Tuesday. Matt, Patrick here today. Guest free this hour, but we will be talking with of course, Patrick Cooligan from the Minnesota Reformer. Well, I won't be. That ain't going to be me. It's going to be Brett. He'll be doing here. He'll be stopping on in here as well. Patrick, how are we today?
Doing pretty well. I think I missed the worst of the driving. It was very glazy this morning from what I heard.
Like a Krispy Kreme donut out there. No, it was, I was having breakfast with a friend down in Uptown and had to, and when I went in, everything was dry. There was no problem. I came on out. I mean, I was skating for the Nordiques at that point. Dear Lord, it was bad. And they had 169 shut down. It was bad. It's all gone now. It's 37 degrees. I'm no science whiz, but if it's 37, there's no ice out there. It's sunny and 37. It's okay. But man, it was a little rough out there, and they had a lot of accidents in about 1-2 hours. So just be careful out there in the Twin Cities metro. Everyone else, you can just you can breathe a sigh of relief and say, I don't live there in winter. Yes, 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. We're going to go straight into what is the State of the Union speech tonight, which, I'm not watching it. There's no why. What? Just to hear him ramble? I mean, to see an elderly man who is in serious mental and physical decline be jacked up on Adderall or something like that so he can get through a speech to, and hear what he's going to say that's going to offend so many people. I don't need to hear that. I don't need to hear that. What's going to say, what would he possibly say? 32% of Americans believe Trump has only 32% of the Americans. There's only is a pretty big point of that. Only 32% of Americans believe Trump has the right priorities. A new poll from CNN shows. This is why, by the way, that Paramount's trying to buy the Warner Brothers because they want to shut down CNN. Because heaven forbid numbers like this actually get out to the public. The poll conducted by polling firm SSRS showed his approval rating among independents at a new low at 26%. Among the findings, only 32% of Americans believe Trump has the right priorities. His job approval rating with all adults is 36%. 61% said his policies are moving the country in the wrong direction. The outlet noted a steep drop in approval among Latino Americans, a 19-point drop, and Americans under the age of 45, an 18-point drop. Here's what I'm going to say is it's fine. The reason why those numbers are dropping, part of the reason why, obviously, a major part is his policies are horrible. But they're not spending the money right now to basically convince those group of people to vote against their best interest. That's what's going on. You have to remember how much money the Republicans spent in 2024 to directly tell the Hispanic community. It's like, Trump's not that bad. He's much better than Kamala Harris, which is now a joke. And the same thing to, hey, who wants cheap college, guys? To all the youngins. Who wants student loan for debt forgiveness? Yet you want Donald Trump instead. And you guys got duped. In 2028, when the Republican Party is pouring money into influencers and into media geared towards the Hispanic community, Latino community, well, we'll see if those numbers are there. But the reality is they've created a system where between the controlling of the narrative and the amount of money they use to buy off opinion, they can turn a crap sandwich into a filet mignon any damn day they want to. And that's just who these guys are. And that is who these guys are. Speaking of which, speaking of who these guys are, let's talk a little bit more about what happened with the U.S. Olympic team, men's team. The men's Olympic hockey team has arrived at the White House, according to a pool report. Now, I'm stunned by this. They've got games coming up later this week. And I know most of these guys were supposed to get back to their team so they could start practicing for their regular job. But apparently they made an exception for them to go out there and meet at the White House. And once again, the women's team turned down the invite, mainly because they never were invited until after Donald Trump called the men's team a few days later, invited them and said, I guess I have to. Well, I got the thing. Where did he say here? He's, I guess I'll have to invite them too, or else I'll be impeached. To which the entire men's hockey team laughed and laughed and laughed. They faced questions. The Trump administration has faced questions and backlash by, of course, FBI Director Kash Patel flying a government jet out there so he can go party in the Olympic locker room with the men's team. Singing and drinking beers as he chugs a beer in Italy to Toby Keith's courtesy of the red, white, and blue. Now, once again, and I said this yesterday, it doesn't surprise me that a lot of hockey players are right-wing MAGA guys. Not at all. I mean, they don't want to pay taxes. They don't. And many of them come up because hockey is such an expensive sport. They come up through the system with, and generally in wealthier white suburbs. That's where most of the hockey kids come from nowadays. So it doesn't surprise me. It just is. Apparently, there's a lot of people who are a little bit miffed about the whole thing, about laughing at the president mocking Trump, Trump mocking the U.S. women's hockey team. And there was an exceptional one I posted this morning, and I got to tell you, was it Sarah Wiles was the individual that I posted? She is a wife of a former Florida Panthers player. She's a mother of a kid that's on a travel hockey team. She basically absolutely eviscerated them for this. Yeah, this is Sarah Wiles is the individual. And she basically called them out saying, this is, the women's team are a better team than you. Yeah, they have the equal amount of gold medals, and the women did it in 1/4 of the time. And I would make the argument that that's absolutely 100% true. And so for the president to, first of all, once again, he didn't call the women's Olympic hockey team for 2 days or 3 days? 3 days after they won the gold medal. 2 days after they won the gold medal. 2 days, didn't even call them to congratulate them. Only called them and invited them to the White House after he invited the men's team. After he had mocked them and the men's hockey team laughed about it. Olympian Jack Hughes and his mom recently responded to the fallout of the U.S. men's hockey team. During the locker room call with the team, Trump invited the players to the State of the Union address. He briefly mentioned the U.S. women's hockey team, who also won gold, saying that he had to invite them or he'd be impeached. The entire men's team laughed and laughed and laughed. This is Jack Hughes. People are so negative out there, and they're just trying to find a reason to put people down and make something out of nothing. So basically, Jack Hughes, hey, chickie poos, why are you so uptight? Why don't you learn how to smile a little bit? I'm paraphrasing, but not by much. People are so negative about things. I think everyone in that locker room knows how much we support them, how proud we are of them, and how we know the same we feel about them and they feel about us. Well, yeah, but in a very public moment, you decided to mock them. It's the friend you have who stands with the person who is bullied at school, and then all of a sudden you're on the school playground and the bully confronts you and you say, who? I'm not friends with that person. Well, that's kind of what happened. During the appearance on the Today Show, they dragged their mom out to defend them. Ellen Hughes, Jack's mom, also addressed the backlash. Ellen Hughes, also the mother of Team USA's Quinn Hughes, and a consultant for the U.S. women's hockey team who is just mocked by Trump. These players, both the men and women, can bring so much unity to a group into this country. People that cheered on that don't watch hockey. Don't cheer it on, I guess, the separation. So you say, basically, if you don't like Donald Trump, you can't possibly like hockey. That's the way I'm taking that statement. Which is just stupid. My guess is it's going to be a case where the U.S. women's team is like, hey, thanks again for all the help, and we don't need you again. That would be my guess. Because it doesn't sound like the women's hockey team is too forgiving or too appreciative of being laughed at by the men's team when Trump mocked them. Which brings up the double standard. Okay? Because what's the standard right now? All you people are so upset about nothing. You're the real bad people for not wanting Donald Trump to mock the women's team. You're the real bad people for being upset that the men's team is going to the White House. It's all you. Now, mind you, well, let me give you an example of this. The double standard. This is the Star Tribune here in Minneapolis, St. Paul today. They had one headline: is politics ruling sports? Partisanship simmers after Olympic gold for men's hockey. Okay. They also had the same headline: Quinn Hughes says we're excited to go to the State of the Union after the gold medal win. Now, if this was a Democratic president, the story would be, why is anybody taking this gold medal win and trying to turn it political by going to that Democratic president's State of the Union address? That would be the story. As well as also it'd be, certain player criticized for being excited to go to the State of the Union address. Keep your politics private. It's the double standard. That's the problem. You guys, when Republicans are in there, everyone else is overreacting and everything. But when a Democrat's in there, it's how dare they go to this? And people are mainly just responding to the fact that Trump mocked the U.S. women's team, and you guys all laughed. And the downside of this actually showed up when the U.S. men's team came back. Basically, they came back to an empty airport. And as one person pointed, as they saw the footage of this, how do you fumble generational aura in less than 24 hours? Asked the U.S. men's team. You want to go support a political party, that's fine. But if I can remind you, you are part of an industry that is dependent on taxpayer dollars, including Democrats' taxpayer dollars, to build your stadiums and your cathedrals to your sport. And you guys always say, this is a good investment, and it's not a good investment. But you need taxpayer dollars. And I'm sorry, if you want to play, you have a right as an American citizen to be, support whoever you want to politically. But if you're in a sport or an industry which is dependent on taxpayer dollars, I don't really want to hear about it then. Because the next time anyone comes to me with wanting NHL money for a stadium, I'm going to say, Cash Patel, call Cash Patel. He'll give you the money. Call Trump. He'll give you the money for your stadium. Don't ask for that money from me. If you want taxpayer dollars, well, frankly, keep your mouth shut. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Hey, Chanhassen and Eden Prairie, it's Alex with Buzz Cut Mowing. Why wake up early, freeze, and shovel snow when I can handle it for you? I provide fast, reliable snow removal so your driveway and sidewalks stay clear, safe, and stress-free all winter long. Relax, enjoy your morning coffee, and let me do the heavy lifting. Visit buzzcutmowingmn.com today and make this winter easier, warmer, and worry-free with Buzz Cut Mowing, because nobody likes shoveling snow.
Hi, I'm Mary T. Caring for others runs deep in my family. My grandmother, Rosa, was a nurse who cared for people in their homes more than a century ago. Inspired by her compassion, my mother, Margaret, and I founded the Mary T. family of companies nearly 50 years ago. Today, we continue that legacy across Minnesota, Wisconsin, Maryland, and Arizona, providing senior living, assisted living with memory care, home health, hospice care, rental housing, and support for people with disabilities. Each service is personal, creative, and focuses on the unique needs of those we serve. We also believe in joy and community, which is why we opened Crooner Supper Club in Fridley, a place to celebrate life with music, laughter, and connection. At Mary T., we're proud to be a Minnesota family company rooted in compassion, inclusion, and respect, and proud supporters of AM 950 and the values that this station represents. Visit MaryTinc.com to learn more.
Congratulations to Mary T., named one of the most admired CEOs of 2026 by the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal.
Lewis Black, live.
When I was in elementary school, then I was like 9, and the teacher said, in case of a nuclear attack, get under your desk. And I said, why would I do that? And she said, because you'll burn faster.
Don't miss this chance to see the legendary Lewis Black. It's like spotting a unicorn. Live in the Mystic Showroom Friday, May 1st. Get tickets now at the Mystic box office or online at mysticlake.com.
The NLS Braille and Audio Reading Download Service gives patrons with visual impairments or physical limitations the freedom to read their way.
Barge is this beautiful web-based program for searching for books and for the ability to download them.
It's a great way to have a book with you without carrying a book.
For information about the National Library Service for the Blind and Physically Handicapped Library of Congress, visit loc.gov/thatallmayread.
Hey, this is Andy Otto, Executive Director of Twin Cities Pride and your host of Twin Cities Pride Amplified. Our community needs your help. Twin Cities Pride is collecting donations to help our local community in need. We're collecting everything from shelf-stable food to household cleaning supplies, infant care items, and personal care products at our Pride Cultural Arts Center. If you're looking to help, reach out to us at info@tcpride.org or just stop by 1201 Harmon Place in Minneapolis. It's our time to take care of our community and take care of each other all year long.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Nice to have you with us today. 952-946-6205. So, by the way, this hour, I've got a doozy of a story. Remember how I talk about there's just so much stuff coming on with this administration. You don't know some of the stuff that's going on. Have I found one that's an absolute freaking doozy for the last segment? You're just not gonna believe what an international embarrassment this administration is. I will get to that later. But I will say this, because of the State of the Union speech, you might have missed the Office of U.S. Attorney for D.C., Janine Pereiro, a.k.a. Give Me That Box Wine, will drop the case against 6 Democratic lawmakers who Trump assailed as seditious after they made a video urging troops to refuse unlawful orders. A source familiar with the situation confirmed to The Guardian's Sam Levine. Now, I will say this. I am a veteran. When I was in the military, we were told if you feel as if an order is illegal, you should not follow it and go to the commander of the individual who gave you that order and discuss your concerns. That was what we were told. That what these Democratic lawmakers did was only something that used to be in the military manual for soldiers. This is how you do things. But once again, I have talked about the fact that when you look at the disturbing level of behavior from ICE agents, if ICE agents were held to the same standard as the military when I was in the military, they would all be up on war crimes. They would be up on war crimes for some of the things that they did because the military wouldn't tolerate you doing some of those things. By the way, I want to give a big shout out to the Dropkick Murphys who are coming into town. They're coming to do a show here in the Twin Cities, and they're actually going to go on out to the Alex Preddy Memorial and actually play it sounds like an acoustic set for free for the crowd that shows up there. It's these musicians that are stepping up, and I mean, music helps heal. That's for sure. And I want a big salute to the Dropkick Murphys for thinking about Minneapolis and coming out, and very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. Back to the other story. The move comes after a grand jury in D.C. earlier this month declined to charge the lawmakers Slotkin, Kelly, Crow, Deluzio, Goodlander, and Houlihan. They all have military or intelligence backgrounds. It was not yet clear whether the Justice Department would still explore pursuing other venues for the case, though it appeared unlikely according to several media reports. The decision was first reported by NBC News. Once again, I want to remind people, grand juries are supposed to be easy layups of an application of charges. And they cannot get a grand jury to go along with them. And the one times they have, it's almost immediately blown up in their face because it's been discovered they lied and presented untruths to the grand jury to get the indictment. These guys, this is what happens when people who just are addicted to their own narrative that they put out there on social media and right-wing media all of a sudden get to the real world and realize, oh, I've got to prove my case. I can't just take these 6 lawmakers out back behind the building and put a bullet in their head. Oh, I guess I can't do that. I guess I'll have to drop the charges. I shouldn't give these guys ideas. In other areas of the administration, there is a very concerning thing, and it does concern me greatly because even though I am, of course, love to be on the Blue Amp Media Network, and by the way, find me on Substack at Matt McNeil Show and on Blue Sky at Matt McNeil Show, by all means. I am also on terrestrial radio. Of course, AM 950, WCPT 820, and 1150 AM KKNW. And those are controlled by the FCC. Trump's administration is already affecting the First Amendment rights of broadcasters. It could get much worse should the Federal Communications Commission carry on its current course, according to one report. The FCC could be bolstered should the Trump administration grant it powers discussed in an internal memo sent by, seen by the New York Times. Apparently, the memo, if it comes to pass, the FCC would determine which political candidates receive airtime. So basically, it's not about even equal time. Now, for everybody out there who doesn't understand this, the late night TV shows, they have been exempt from this rule, okay? Terrestrial radio is not supposed to be, although Republicans and the FCC have allowed in rural communities where these are beat red, unapologetically far-right radio stations to only interview Republican candidates under the guise of community, discretion. And I know people, I know radio stations who in rural parts of Minnesota and upper Midwest who have denied Democrats access to talk to the same crowd under the same rules because they say, we just, no one here cares. We're not going to put you on the air. Now, I can't do that here in the Twin Cities. I cannot. But if I interview a candidate for, say, a primary, I don't have to interview any other candidate outside of any candidate in that, say, Democratic primary. When I get to the general election, I can interview the Republican and the Democrat. If a Republican's dumb enough to come on this show, sign of the cross, man. Good luck with all that, because I'm coming out throwing haymakers. That being said, but that's the rules. I mean, I have to, whatever the race is, if it's a primary race, I have to make sure I present the same equal opportunity to everyone in the primary. Last week, I interviewed Peggy Flanagan from the Minnesota DFL, who is running for Senate. If her opponent wants time, I will gladly make time for them. That's just the rule. The same thing goes for the general election. But now they're seeming to change this. The implication is they're going to determine who does and does not get airtime, which, once again, guarantee you it's going to be all rightos. This overstep step affected Stephen Colbert last week when CBS lawyers strongly inferred the interview with James Tallarico, a Democratic candidate for Texas, should be pulled from broadcast. The interview was instead uploaded to YouTube, seen by millions of people. The New York Times editorial board wrote, "This approach obliterates the traditional line between consumer fraud and protected speech. Historically, the First Amendment has limited the reach of consumer law to commercial speech or clear-cut fraud. But by treating political bias as a defect in the commercial product, the FCC is claiming the authority to police journalism itself." Basically saying, imagine they could come into this radio station in the Twin Cities and say, I can interview the Republican candidates for governor, but I can't interview the Democratic candidate for governor. And that's what the FCC is starting to imply they're going to do. The FCC has long granted exemption for interviews on news programs, allowing broadcasters to make editorial judgments. In the memo issued last month, the FCC warned that broadcasters might violate the rule if they aired interviews motivated by partisan purposes, whatever the hell that means. Well, I think all you guys on the right are a bunch of jerks, so guilty as charged. What does that even mean? In practice, this would allow the FCC to determine which candidate gets airtime, and it's already having a chilling effect. The approach threatens to turn back the clock to the mid-20th century when the government imposed the wide range of rules on broadcasters. Both Democrats and Republican administrations weaponized these rules to suppress critical coverage of their agendas. Under Reagan, the FCC ended the most of those requirements because it recognized it was inhibiting this public discourse it intended to encourage. So basically, he wanted people fighting. He wanted one side presented over the other side. And so they got rid of the rules. That's kind of where we're at right now. So hug your favorite radio broadcaster while you still can. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Come on, you know it's true. Work is almost bearable when the Stephanie Miller Show is on. AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable, but how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Hey everyone, it's Ellie Krug, the host of The Legal Trends Woman that airs on Saturdays at 3 o'clock. As some of you know, when I'm not doing radio, I'm writing things. A decade ago, I published my first book, Getting to Ellen, a memoir about love, honesty, and gender change. More recently, my newest book, Being Ellen, A Second Chance at Life, was released. I'm thrilled about that. So much so that I partnered with one of AM 950's friends and advertisers, Big Hill Books in Minneapolis, for an author event where you can come and meet me and hopefully buy a book or two. The author event at Big Hill Books will take place on Sunday, March 1st from 2 to 3 in the afternoon. Big Hill Books is a lovely place with all things literary. Please come. I'd love to personally inscribe a book for you and to chat about what it means to live authentically, true to oneself. Again, please join me on Sunday, March 1st at Big Hill Books, which is located at 405 Penn Avenue South in Minneapolis. I look forward to seeing you.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I've been telling you about my friends at Snap Construction, who are arguably the most well-reviewed exterior construction company in the metro. Don't just take my word for it. Take a look at all their reviews online. Winter is the most cost-effective time of the year to complete your construction project. A majority of Minnesotans choose to have their work completed on their home in the summer when they should be enjoying the weather. As a result, the demand for labor in the summer is much higher. The most cost-effective way to improve or restore your home is in the winter due to the lower demand. Right now, Snap Construction is offering an additional 30% off of labor to the AM 950 listeners on your next construction project between now and the end of February. Call 612-333-SNAP and mention AM 950 for an additional 30% off. As always, Snap Construction stands by their work with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Don't wait to get a free estimate by calling 612-333-SNAP or find them online at snapconstruction.com. Financing options available.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies today with a high near 36, tonight partly cloudy with a low around 9, and Wednesday sunny with a high around 21. Enjoy authentic Chinese favorites at the Great Wall Restaurant. From hot and sour soup to sesame chicken and even their delicious Peking duck, you'll find it at the Great Wall Restaurant. Visit them at 4515 France Avenue to experience their full selection and learn more at greatwallrestaurant.us. That's greatwallrestaurant.us.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk. In the afternoon drive in the nighttime hours in Seattle, 1150 AM KKNW. And, of course, on the Blue Amp Media Network at blueamp.co on Substack. That's blueamp.co on Substack. And, of course, in Minneapolis, St. Paul on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Tuesday. 952-946-6205. So I do want to remind people of you remember earlier I was talking about those hockey players and how they're talking about it is so great to go meet Trump. It's so great. It's so great. I love him. I love him. You know, that's fine. You want to be there for your big orange tub of goo. Ugh. You want to party with Kash Patel. You losers. So sorry. Okay, wait a minute. Let me get this right. You guys win Olympic gold. You could go anywhere at that point. You go to the Eiffel Tower. You could go, hang out in Vegas. You could go out in Monaco and party. And your idea of excitement is Kash Patel and Trump. Wow. Okay. Anyway. But that's fine. You, like I said, I mean, even though you're involved in a sport that requires us to give you taxpayer dollars when you need a new stadium, sure, tell us basically that, this is going to help the Republicans. I'm going to go out there and champion the Republicans. So, if you give me taxpayer dollars, this is going to go to help the Republicans. And then we'll make our decisions on if we want to actually give you taxpayer dollars. Huh? See how that works? Yeah, I know. That all being said, I wonder how those hockey players are going to be, I don't know, 2-3 months when it becomes undeniably clear, even to the most MAGA of MAGA heads, that they support a child rapist. Because, and we talked about this, at least the allegation of this, about a week and a half ago. Back when those Democrats started going into the to look at the documents and see what was redacted in the secure thing, and all of a sudden they realized things were not being presented. And of course, once again, Todd Blanche, Trump's personal lawyer, who's now at DOJ, and Pam Bondi, the worst attorney general in the history of this country, who's also just betrothed to Trump. The Dow! Yeah. They basically clearly have been part of a massive cover-up to try to prevent Trump from ever being held accountable for raping children and trafficking, young girls over at Mar-a-Lago, which it's becoming more and more clear that this is the case. And I want to just, before anybody says, if you had 1/10 of the information about Trump for any other person right now, not only would they be guilty as hell in a court of law, there's no way in the world they would not find them guilty. They probably would have pled out fairly quickly because they knew that they couldn't defend it. But yet, what you have here is one of the biggest scandals in the history of this country. The Department of Justice knows that Donald Trump is guilty. They know that there is incriminating evidence against him. And they clearly are using the Department of Justice, not for justice, but injustice. They're the Legion of Doom, all right? They're out in the swamp with the Scarecrow and Lex Luthor at this point. Because, wait a second. If I can say, the Legion of Doom wouldn't want them because they'd get to the door and Solomon Grundy is like, wait a second here. These guys basically have been raping kids. They're not part of our group, are they? And they would boot you out because raping kids, okay? That's how bad this is. And it's clear through the redactions and the fact that the Department of Justice has desperately tried to dox the victims as much as possible. Releasing all their personal information, but the people who raped them or allegedly raped them, well, they've got, their records need to stay clean. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. So people about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, basically started saying, wait a second, there doesn't seem to be, we know there are some pieces of evidence which we know of through history that this evidence should be here and it was never released. And then the question then becomes, did the DOJ intentionally hold back incriminating evidence against the U.S. men's hockey team's favorite president and alleged child rapist, Donald Trump? Hey, you guys, you want it? You can't have it both ways. You want to snuggle up to the great orange heathen? Fine. Then own it, dude. That's your buddy, the alleged child rapist. After reviewing unredacted files on Jeffrey Epstein at the Justice Department headquarters, Representative Robert Garcia accused the Trump administration on Tuesday of appearing to have illegally withheld FBI interviews with a person who accused Trump of heinous crimes. And we're talking heinous crimes. For the last few weeks, oversight Democrats have been investigating the FBI's handling of allegations from a 2019 of sexual assault on a minor made against Trump by a survivor. Garcia said in a statement released by the Oversight Committee Democrats on Tuesday, yesterday I reviewed unredacted evidence logs at the DOJ. Oversight Democrats can confirm the DOJ appears to have illegally withheld FBI interviews with the survivor who accused Trump of heinous crimes. Oversight Democrats will open a parallel investigation into this. The DOJ has been under fire for weeks for scrubbing the files from its public database of files on Epstein, actions that critics have alleged to be blatantly unlawful. Specifically, the DOJ has scrubbed a significant number of files that include allegations against Trump himself. There is zero doubt in my mind that that is indeed what has happened, that at the DOJ or the FBI, there are boxes and boxes of direct Trump raped me, Trump assaulted me, Trump beat me, Trump auctioned me off that the DOJ is frantically trying to hide. Boxes. Including, this is the evidence, the Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell may have possessed blackmail of the president, as well as the FBI interview records detailing serious accusations. Under the Oversight Committee subpoena and the Epstein Files Transparency Act, these records must immediately be shared with Congress and the American public, Garcia continued. Covering up direct evidence of a potential assault by the president of the United States is the most serious possible crime this White House could cover up. Using a Tuesday morning report from NPR that Department of Justice appears to have disappeared documents from the Jeffrey Epstein files, MS Now's Lisa Rubin zeroed in on one of the more alarming revelations. According to Rubin, 3 missing interviews could add a lot more fuel to the fire surrounding Trump, making it appear he was far from a passive friend of the convicted sex trafficker. NPR reported files scrubbed from public view pertain to a separate woman who was a key witness for the prosecution in a criminal trial of Epstein's co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently serving 20-year prison sentence for trafficking children. She basically is also seeking clemency from Trump. That led Rubin to tell host Ana Cabrera that missing interviews reportedly showed that an unnamed woman said she was sexually abused by Trump as well as being hit by him, and that the one who was released by the DOJ contained nothing that would implicate the president. So once again, we know this case file exists because it was part of the Ghislaine Maxwell case. They went to see where this information is, and the DOJ has stashed it in the basement of the DOJ underneath the stairs and hoping no one finds it. Holding up a witness list provided by the DOJ, she said, you see in the files, you see the evidence that this woman spoke to the FBI 4 times between July and I believe October or November of 2019. 4 separate interviews, and they abruptly stopped. And we don't know why, because the latter 3 interviews were all missing. And yet we have this internal FBI correspondence produced by the Department of Justice where they say that a single accuser against Trump refused to continue cooperating with the FBI. Is that, in fact, this woman? We can't say for sure. But that was one of the possible conclusions that you could draw off, that they did not deem her to be not credible, that is, at some point she stopped cooperating and wanted to be a witness in this proceeding. Legal analyst Catherine Christian noted the accusation came in 2019, and who's more high profile than the president of the United States if this is when she was interviewed? So once again, there's an allegation. I'm not saying the crime happened in 2019, but the interviews were happening in 2019 while Trump was in his first term. His 3rd year of his first term. And even if they're not high profile, as you said, sexual assault victims, they are fearful of coming forward. They don't want to be judged. They frequently are judged even more by friends, as we talked about with the DOJ. They released all their information and doxed them. So you can just imagine the heightened fear if the person you're accusing of doing this is someone who's very high profile. Now, once again, this is a different case than the one of the auction. We talked about this, where Trump basically emceed an auction of underage girls to various clients. There's this allegation he did this with his kids present. And that at some point, he actually violated the girls on stage to rate them. I guess maybe that's the best way to say it, because it's so offensive. It's not even, I don't even want to get down that path. That allegation is out there. And it should be the end of anybody. That allegation is made. What you do is you say, okay, you need to go get that fixed. And if this is wrong, then you can come back, obviously. That's the case. But no one in the Republican Party even wants to touch that. And now you have another case, and this is the case we've talked about, where the girl was apparently forced to give oral sex to Trump, the allegation is, and then when she basically didn't do it right, he smacked her around. Of course, one group of people who are desperately keeping their heads in the ground are the Republican Party. And nobody is better at ignoring sexual assault than Jim Jordan. Seriously, go check out the wrestling team at Ohio State, which he coached. He ignored the abuse going on to them. Oh, he's a pro at enabling abusers. He was confronted on CNN by a news report that shows the Department of Justice removed records from the Jeffrey Epstein related to a woman who accused Trump of sexually abusing her when she was a minor. CNN's Manu Raju hosted Jordan, the chairman of the Joint House Judiciary Committee, to discuss the president's upcoming State of the Union speech. Everyone knows the president didn't do anything wrong, Jordan said, because if he had, you don't think that Merrick Garland's Justice Department and the Biden administration would have brought something up? I mean, everyone knows he didn't do anything wrong here. So this is their new, by the way, defense. Well, if there was all this stuff in there, why didn't the Biden Justice Department bring this forward? Well, one, the Justice Department, through mismanaged by Merrick Garland, was trying to prosecute the January 6th insurrection. And two, this argument of, well, if they would have just brought this forward, I would have believed it from the Biden administration. Yeah, they would have screamed it's made up and it's fake. That's just that. So he's insisting that Donald Trump is innocent. Congressman Garcia said today the DOJ appears to have withheld FBI interviews with a survivor who accused Trump of a serious crime. Are you aware of DOJ withholding? Are you going to ask about it, or do you want to what do you want to do when you see this information? Jordan insisting he'd not been aware of the DOJ. This is the head of the Justice Committee in the House. He's insisting, I have no idea. He's probably been briefed on this already. I am not, Jordan said. I am not aware of this. I am not, but I'm confident the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General are complying with the law, even though he was just informed they weren't. Some lawmakers have reviewed the unredacted Epstein files held by the DGA, but Jordan said he was not among them. I have not, he said, because this week I was really busy. Once again, I want to prepare everybody for what is going to be the worst part of this whole thing. Every Republican, when it becomes undeniable that Donald Trump was the rapist in chief, them saying, I had no idea. They all knew. Jim Jordan knows. Jim Jordan knows. They're enabling rapists. I'm going to guess that tonight that those hockey players are going to get a big old picture with Donald Trump and a thumbs up, and they're going to put it in their living room. The one question I have for you guys is this. When you do find out he's been raping kids, will you actually take it down? Or will you be even more proud that you were there with him during his time of trial? You guys all disgust me. You guys are all horrible, horrible people. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
What if I told you that toxic pesticides from crop seeds and lawns have spread all over Minnesota's lands and water, devastating wildlife and posing risks to our health? Well, it's true. But a coalition of Minnesota farmers, community members, anglers, and more are taking action to protect our state from neurotoxic pesticides. To learn more and get involved, visit cleanerseed.org. That's cleanerseed.org. And tune to Food Freedom Radio.
Hi, my name is Katrina, and I'm the Community Program Specialist at the Institute on Community Integration at the University of Minnesota. We have a podcast called Boldly Challenging Ableism. We look at issues being faced by the disabled community, and for each episode, I interview someone about a topic, and we talk about why it matters and how it could change for the better. Season 2 is about to come out. If you haven't heard Season 1, that's okay. Season 2 is better, and it's not in a sequence. Plus, I won't even know. It will be on Sundays at 2 p.m. right here on AM 950.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners. How important are business values to you? When you need high-quality digital print, it matters who you work with. You see, Minuteman Uptown is unique. We're one of the only union print shops in Minnesota providing our team with living wages and benefits. We believe in second chances for justice-impacted individuals who want to contribute to the community, and we are active in local issues. We've been in the streets standing up for racial, social, and economic justice. At Minuteman Uptown, our mission is to connect all communities through technology-driven print solutions. An example of that mission is when I moved Minuteman Uptown to North Minneapolis. We're invested in this local community, and we help small businesses and local organizations throughout the Twin Cities reach their audiences. Reach out to Minuteman Uptown and partner with a printer that shares your values. Call us today at 612-870-0777 or visit us at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
AM 950 would like to thank everyone who joined and donated during our winter membership drive. Your support shows that Minnesotans still value an independent progressive radio station that delivers facts, not spin. AM 950 is locally owned, based right here in the Twin Cities, and dedicated to uplifting small businesses and diverse communities. At a time when some voices are being pushed aside, AM 950 refuses to be silenced. Please help keep progressive radio on the air. Visit am950radio.com and donate today.
Hearts and beliefs collide in the poignant comedy, The Cake, playing at Theater in the Round. Della is a talented Southern baker whose life changes when she's asked to create a wedding cake for her late best friend's daughter, who's marrying a woman. The production offers a tender and funny look at the complex intersection of faith and family. The Cake runs February 20th through March 15th at Theater in the Round. Tickets and more information at theaterintheround.org.
They're gonna put me in the movies. It is the Matt McNeil Show. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. So I mentioned earlier that there is usually so many things going on that you sometimes don't realize what up until the Trump presidencies would have been administration crumbling scandals that are going on completely behind the scenes. You remember the other day I was talking about the labor secretary. Her husband's been banned from the labor department building because there are allegations he sexually assaulted two of the staff members, and she's being accused of having an affair. Oh, by the way, she's the designated survivor tonight. So, you know, she might be off in some grotto enjoying herself. So, so she's safe someplace, I guess. I don't know. Allegedly. Dear Lord. But there are so many embarrassments. I saw this and this came across and I'm like, what? I did not know any of this. And this is, France. That's France. Big country over across the ocean there. It's moved to cut off Charles Kushner. That's right, Kushner, Jared's dad, who is the U.S. ambassador to France and the father of son-in-law, former meeting the Trump son-in-law, meeting government officials after he failed to appear when summoned. Okay, he was summoned by the French government. He did not appear. America's diplomatic corps has supposedly managed its relationships abroad, but the Trump administration's ambassadors have repeatedly butted heads with foreign leaders, threatening to strain relations with allies. Kushner was summoned after the State Department attributed the beating death of a far-right activist to a violent radical leftist. Commentary the French government has perceived as interference. A French official confirmed that Kushner, the ambassador, did not appear. France's foreign minister requested Kushner's access to members of its government be blocked, with the official citing apparent misunderstanding of the most basic expectations of ambassadorship. The foreign minister told France Info, "This will naturally affect his ability to carry out his mission in our country." Kushner said he did not wish to interfere in French public debate on Tuesday in a call with the foreign minister. It's not the first time Kushner was summoned. The host previously rebuked his allegation that he has not taken sufficient action to combat anti-Semitism. The White House and the State Department did not immediately respond to this report. Now, so France, you got Kushner's dad there. He's an embarrassment. And what he's doing is he's feeding Fox News talking points on French, situations, and they're not true. And so they're basically accusing him of trying to rile up the community. And now all of a sudden he doesn't realize, oh yeah, that's not what ambassadors do. And there's a decent chance he could get thrown out of France. This isn't the only country that's had a problem with him. The U.S. ambassador to Belgium, or not with him, but their other ambassadors. The U.S. ambassador to Belgium, Bill White, was summoned earlier this month after he accused the nation of anti-Semitism on social media. He demanded Belgium drop the ridiculous and anti-Semitic prosecution over an investigation into circumcision practices and called the health ministry very rude. Their foreign minister called any suggestion that Belgium is anti-Semitic false, offensive, and unacceptable, and summoned White, who once again realized, well, I guess this isn't Fox News, this is the real world. Poland. Tom Rose, the U.S. ambassador to Poland, declared early this month that the U.S. would have no further dealings, contacts, or communications with the parliament's lower house speaker, alleging he made unprovoked insults directed at Trump. Well, he's got freedom of speech, right? And so he's upset that basically the speaker of the Polish House basically said something that was offensive in his mind. He did not specify what comments he was criticizing for, but he said the speaker said Trump did not deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. You mean the guy's trying to start war in Iran? Yeah. Spoiler alert. No, he doesn't. And he criticized the president for disregarding Polish veterans. Polish prime minister chastised the hostility. Mr. Ambassador Rose, allies should respect each other, not lecture each other. Rose mocked the response. So the ambassador mocked the response from the prime minister, saying, surely intended this for the House Speaker, whose despicable, disparaging, and insulting comments about Trump were so potentially damaging to your government. Then there's Iceland. Former Representative Billy Long apologized after reportedly joking that Iceland should become the 52nd state. Okay, I don't know if you have math. Patrick, did I really miss a headline here? How many states are in the Union?
It's 50. Although I'll probably think he's like, oh, well, maybe Greenland or Canada would be 51, and then Iceland is 52.
But I think he left that out, which makes it seem like he doesn't know how many states there are in the Union. I'll go with that because that's on brand. The comment reported by Politico sparked outrage within Iceland. Understandably, Long told Arctic Today, toughest jumble you'll find, that there is nothing serious about what he said, but Icelanders petitioned their foreign minister to reject his ambassadorship. Why not Chile? That's right. The U.S. Ambassador Brandon Judd to Chile has openly clashed with outgoing Chilean President Gabriel Boric for his criticism of Trump. In November, Judd held a press conference to challenge the outgoing prime minister in Chile. The Chilean foreign ministry responded in protest, calling Judd's comments inappropriate and unfortunate. Boric will soon cede power to far-right Jose Antonio Cast, who the State Department says will advance shared priorities, and blah, blah, blah. And of course, then there's Israel, where Mike Huckabee is over there. He recently sparked an uproar that suggested that when he talked to Tucker Carlson, that Israel has the right to the entire Middle East, all of it, including Saudi Arabia, the entire Middle East. It would be fine if they took it all, Huckabee said in a land referenced in the Bible. He noted Israel isn't actively seeking to take over the Middle East, though. That was his defense. Needless to say, Huckabee, well, rhymes with Huck. That Huck, he didn't seem to understand that wasn't going to go over too well with the rest of the Middle East. But every ambassador is a freaking embarrassment. And I want to remind people, if this was at any other time in this country's history, this would be shattering an administration. One of these things would be. But the national news media is like, oh, you Donald. They don't care. They just don't care. Chicago, Seattle. Talk to you tomorrow. Minneapolis, St. Paul, and bam, hour 2 up next.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I've been telling you about my friends at Snap Construction, who are arguably the most well-reviewed exterior construction company in the metro. Don't just take my word for it. Take a look at all their reviews online. Winter is the most cost-effective time of the year to complete your construction project. A majority of Minnesotans choose to have their work completed on their home in the summer when they should be enjoying the weather. As a result, the demand for labor in the summer is much higher. The most cost-effective way to improve or restore your home is in the winter due to the lower demand. Right now, Snap Construction is offering an additional 30% off of labor to the AM 950 listeners on your next construction project between now and the end of February. Call 612-333-SNAP and mention AM 950 for an additional 30% off. As always, Snap Construction stands by their work with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Don't wait to get a free estimate by calling 612-333-SNAP or find them online at snapconstruction.com. Financing options available.
It's Brad Friedman, your friendly investigative blogger, journalist, and host of the Bradcast on AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. President Trump will deliver the first State of the Union of his second term to a joint session of Congress tonight. Saka Magani has a preview.
6 weeks after being sworn in a year ago, the president addressed lawmakers for what wasn't technically a State of the Union for a record 100 minutes. This time,
it's going to be a long speech because we have so much to talk about.
He's trying to pitch voters on keeping GOP majorities in November's midterm elections, focused on the economy. But polling shows many Americans are not happy with his handling of the economy, with prices still high. Top House Democrat Hakeem Jeffries says the president can come to the Capitol and spin the State of the Union however he wants.
It's a disaster.
Some Democrats plan to skip the speech. Jeffries says he will be in the House chamber, which he says is our house, not the president's.
You don't let anyone ever run you off of your block.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The latest gauge of consumer confidence shows improvement, the Conference Board's index rising to 91.2. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth pressuring the company Anthropic. Ed Donahue has details.
A source tells the AP Hegseth gave Anthropic CEO a Friday deadline to open its AI tech for unrestricted military use or risk losing its government contract. The company makes the chatbot Claude and remains the last of its peers to not supply its technology to a new U.S. military internal network. I'm Ed Donahue.
FedEx has joined other U.S. companies suing the government for a full refund of tariffs it's paid. This after the Supreme Court ruled them illegal. Warner Brothers Discovery is reviewing a new takeover offer from Paramount. However, its board still recommending the company's deal with Netflix. On Wall Street, stocks rebounded. The S&P and the Dow each climbed about 0.8%. The Nasdaq gained about 1%. This is AP News.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit Tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-77.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. February is the month for love, so when was the last time you gave your carpet the love and attention it deserves? Maybe you've been procrastinating on the holiday post-mortem cleanup at your house. Are you worried if you got down on your hands and knees what you might see or smell? Not only is your carpet one of the biggest investments in your home, but it's also the largest air filter in your home. And what's worse, you're going to be stuck inside breathing this nasty stuff for months. Lucky for you, Zero Res is going to spread the love to you and your home. This month, get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $119 and take $75 off your air duct cleaning. Call my friends at Zero Res right now, 952-ZERO-RES, or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. A 4.9 rating on Google reviews and over 21,000 satisfied customers can't be wrong. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
Oh, this is Robert Pilot. For Native relatives, healing is more than just sobriety. It's reclaiming indigenous masculinity as a sacred, balanced force. Join Hunter Thundercloud for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. We explore how personal recovery uplifts our communities. It's time men step back into roles as mentors and spiritual leaders. Recovery is collective, and it starts with us. Tune in the first and third Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. Let's tend the fire together.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies today with a high near 36, tonight partly cloudy with a low around 9, and Wednesday sunny with a high around 21. Enjoy authentic Chinese favorites at the Great Wall Restaurant. From hot and sour soup to sesame chicken and even their delicious Peking duck, you'll find it at the Great Wall Restaurant. Visit them at 4515 France Avenue to experience their full selection and learn more at greatwallrestaurant.us. That's greatwallrestaurant.us.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hour number 2 of the show here this morning, or this afternoon. Matt and Patrick and Brett is in the studio with us here today. Hello, Brett. How are you?
Hey, all right. How about you?
All right. Usually we have you on camera, but all of a sudden, oh, there we are. Now you gotcha. There you are. The camera is working again. Nicely done. Yeah, that's why I don't do the tech stuff. You guys do the tech stuff.
It's really complicated to turn something off and then turn it back on.
It was
solve so many problems.
On and off, you say. There's a switch, you say. I like I said, I'll go with the Captain America line from the first Avengers. It appears to run on some form of electricity. So that's all I can. You've gotten my technological expertise. Patrick brought up at the beginning of the last hour the mess that was out for about an hour. I mean, that's all it really was. It was an hour, but this city was freaking just crippled because of just a real glazing of ice. It was bad. Ugh. You didn't get any accidents, did you?
I didn't on my way, and I got here about 9 o'clock, and everything was just fine. But we had a show recording coming in at 10 o'clock, and he was saying, "Well, I almost got into an accident on the way. Everything was a parking lot." So it's crazy how quickly that ice and rain picked up in a very short amount of time and really shut things down.
Patrick, you didn't bumper car it out of the way there, did you?
Fortunately, not this time.
Well, that's good news. Now, here's the real good news. We could send the plows on out, and we do have now the official winners of the Name a Plow contest for Minnesota. And one little point I want to make here about how kind of the wussiness of the Minnesota DOT. Because did you see that? I'll get to this. In Chicago, they named it Ice Out. The plow for Chicago was named Ice Out.
And we couldn't do it, could we?
I'll get to that. Oh, for Fleet's sake, just as Minnesotans are preparing to forget about the snowplows for a few months, MnDOT crowned the winners of its annual Name a Snowplow contest. More than 19,000 Minnesotans cast a vote to determine the names for 8 snowplows culled from the list of 30 finalists that were fully snowy puns, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this story copy is not good. Minnesota's version of the contest, now in its 6th year, accepts public suggestions, but all entries have to be non-political. So you won't find any ice-related names at all, unlike Chicago, where Abolish Ice was the top vote getter. It would have won by 1.5 miles if it was in Minnesota. The winners are a mix of wintry puns and pop culture references. Here are the winners. Oh, for Fleet's sake, 1. Flurious George. Okay. Sled Zeppelin. Now, I think that's the first one you and I said was probably going to make it. Because a Led Zeppelin reference is always going to be a crowd pleaser.
Better than the other two. I'm not very impressed so far, just to say the least.
Well, the one I knew was going to be here, K-pop Blizzard Hunter. I knew that was going to be in there, not with modern pop culture stuff. K-pop Blizzard Hunter made it. And they're putting that in the very southwestern part of the state, where that is like the reddest part of the state. So good call. Mini Snowta. Oh, God. That one. Every Day I'm Shoveling. That finally one. That's been on the list for years. Oh, Brother, Where Art That Plow? Oh, Brother, Where Art Plow? And then for the Twin Cities metro area, The Life of a Snow Girl. A little Tay-Tay reference there. So those are the winners. You and I think, we picked Life of the Snow Girl, Oh, Brother, Where Art Plow, K-pop Blizzard Hunter, and Sled Zeppelin. I think we got all 4 of those. There are 2 that I thought we were going to get in there, but didn't. 6 Sledding didn't make it in, which I thought that would be a good one.
That could also be a dated reference very soon.
Well, it is going to be a dated reference, but usually it will at least strike while the iron is hot, sort of thing. Walter Whiteout didn't win. That bothers me. Well, I would love to have a meth dealer television show based snowplow in the state. And apparently not. Walter Whiteout. That's a good name. MnDOT told Racket that over the 6,750 submissions this year, name a snowball contest, around 400 included ice-specific messages. No other thematic submission outranks those numbers, according to the agency. It stands to reason Abolish Ice topped that pile, and thus the contest itself. Like in past years, however, it was eliminated from competing in the 30-name finalist stage that saw the Led Zeppelin and party rock anthem puns instead. I will agree. For 6 years, MnDOT's Name a Snowplow contest has been designed to be fun, lighthearted, and apolitical. This year is no exception. Spokesperson Devin Henry says, as always, we have rejected submissions with political messages and selected puns, memes, and Taylor Swift jokes. Most of year's submissions were funny celebrations of Minnesota's snowplowing prowess, and that's why we prioritized when choosing finalists. Okay, I get it to a point. At what point does 95% of the state disagreeing with you kind of kick in? I mean, that's kind of when I believe most people want abolish ice out. I mean, I know the Republicans will tell you, everybody here, as a matter of fact, if I can, apparently Tom Emmer, according to our friends over at Heartland Signal and Aaron Rupar, Tom Emmer has said, well, if you minus the Twin Cities metro area, Minnesota really is a red state.
That's some sound logic right there. Touche, libs.
There he goes. In a state whose population overall is 5.8 million, if you take out the 4 million population of Minneapolis, St. Paul, that somehow the Republicans would still win? Logic. You still can't pay your own damn bills, you moocher counties that basically need the Twin Cities tax dollars to live.
I don't know if you knew this, Matt, but if you had Minnesota only comprised of the Twin Cities, it would be a 100% blue state. Can you imagine that?
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Hey, guys, could you, rest of you guys? Well, I mean, I think we should just take the eastern part of the state. That will give us Duluth and Rochester, too. Who doesn't love mayonnaise? So, we get all three of them, the little corridor here. Hey, sorry, Fargo suburbs, you're on your own. But the rest of those states, they can go join They wanted to join South Dakota. Let them go join South Dakota. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. All my best. Oh, God. That is just, but that's the bizarro logic you're dealing with. And you're placating when you basically sit there and say, even though this is an insanely relevant term, I drove through Minneapolis. We went out and we did some hiking this weekend. And so I came back on Minnehaha Creek Parkway, and every house, and these are all the way over to the west side in the wealthy part of Minneapolis, every house had ice out. Everybody wants them gone. Just give the Twin Cities metro area a mulligan and let us have it, for God's sakes.
You could at least make the plow the Twin Cities based plow as well.
Yeah.
Even though it would be kind of funny if you made it like the most red area. You made it abolish ice in like the southwestern part.
Here comes Trump sucks. Okay, maybe I get it for that. But I mean, if Chicago can do it, why are we taking a backseat to Chicago? Although Chicago is lovely. I do love Chicago. But why? If they can do it, we can do it. Let's do it. Stop being wuss balls. I don't know. Maybe the Chicago guys, it's their metro area plowing team. So they don't have Elwin out on the farm screaming, I heard you discrepancy against the Trumpster. That sort of thing. I got 94 flags in my front yard and I can't afford food. That sort of thing. Upsetting that guy so, with a snowplow name because, priorities,
Why have fun with the names when you can go bland?
White, beige, eggshell. No, that's going to be the names of them next year. Let's go over to Home Depot, go to the white paint area and just get all the Snow Flurry, milkshake, all of the whitest names that they have there. And there you go. There's our excitement for Minnesota. All right. Speaking of excitement, Patrick Cooligan is our good friend from the Minnesota Reformer. They are doing excellent work there, and I highly recommend to everybody, if you're not reading the Minnesota Reformer, you should be, because it is one of the few good news outlets left. You, of course, chat with him every Tuesday. What are you guys talking about today?
Yeah, so today we are talking about what's happening at the legislature with gun safety bills. Governor Walz has unveiled some proposals, and they're also having a pretty big display over there right now where they're having 60 desks on display representing the number of Minnesota children who have been killed by gun violence since 2021. Just crazy to think that's 5 years only, and 60 kids have already been killed. So we're going to be talking about some gun violence bills that'll hopefully get through the legislature. Plus, we're also going to talk a little bit about their write-up they did on the history of fraud with our social service programs in Minnesota that really dates back over 50 years, according to their reporting. So a lot to get to today.
It's interesting you got that, because I know people that work for the state, and they've worked for the state for a long time, and they said, no, the fraud problem is not something that's new. This is just, there has not been the appetite for this. And they point to when the 35W bridge collapsed. When that collapsed, part of the problem was they'd been cutting back on the inspections for 20 years. And that was part of the problem, is they weren't paying attention. Unfortunately, this is like that. It's just through Republican and Democratic administrations, nobody wanted to take it seriously. And now I'm glad we are. As a matter of fact, I got another story coming up later on, which seems to back up the fact that they are taking this seriously now. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Here is Brett with Patrick Cooligan from the Minnesota Reformer right here on AM 950.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Brett Johnson with you here on this Tuesday afternoon as we are joined by the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer. That's Patrick Cooligan, who joins us every week to talk about some of the Minnesota news that they've been covering over at minnesotareformer.com. As today, we're mainly going to be talking about two topics. One has to do with something that's, going to be a big topic at the legislature, and that is gun safety, since Governor Walz and members of the legislature are going to begin unveiling some of their proposals to deal with gun safety here in our state in the wake of the Annunciation and other shootings at Minnesota schools. Plus, we are also going to take an historical look at fraud issues in Minnesota, because a new report was released from a Governor Walz appointee that talks about how the fraud we've seen in Minnesota has really been 50 years or even more in the making. So got a lot to get to today. Patrick, thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Always a pleasure.
So let's start talking about what's happening at the Capitol, because there are 60 empty desks at the Capitol right now. And these desks are really not any ordinary objects, as each represents a Minnesota child that was killed by gun violence. And together they represent more than 200 Minnesota children that were killed by gun violence since 2021. But after the Annunciation and other shootings, a lot of people are asking, when will we take action to protect children? Well, that's the question lawmakers are grappling with right now at the session. So this idea that we have now 60 empty desks at the Capitol, and also some pretty powerful testimony from survivors and parents from the Annunciation shooting that we saw last year. Let's talk about this, I guess, very raw kind of personal experience that I think folks are trying to bring into the Capitol to create at least action on gun violence. Let's talk about if that could be effective in terms of trying to get some actual gun measures passed in Minnesota, and kind of the overall symbolism of having those 60 empty desks, and then, of course, some pretty raw testimony as well.
Yeah, certainly a powerful use of imagery. And we have a new group of Annunciation community members and parents who are trying to get some action on this issue. I'm afraid that the current makeup of the Minnesota legislature is going to make it very difficult to get anything done. The Minnesota House is split evenly between Republicans and Democrats, and I think Democrats are going to have a hard time getting any Republicans on board. And then in the Senate, the Democrats have a narrow majority, 34-33, but there's a couple of Democrats who I think are going to be wary of new gun control measures. They represent some greater Minnesota districts, Moorhead and Hermantown, and have not been really eager to support gun control measures in the past. So I think it's going to be tough, but I think what the advocates of tougher gun control need to remember is that the gun rights movement really, as we know it today, began in the 1970s, and it took them a long, long time, if you want to account to the Heller decision in 2009, or to Bruin more recently, gun, almost unlimited gun rights as they exist now. It took a long time, and they had a long strategy in place. They were playing a long game, and they were successful. And there's every reason to think that could be reversed, but only with patience and smart strategy and tactics. And so that's what I would tell the advocates for gun control, is that this can happen, but don't be discouraged by one legislative session or one election cycle.
Well, let's talk about specifically what DFLers and Governor Walz are proposing at the legislature, because one area that kind of had me interested has to do with the idea of putting a tax on guns and ammo, among other ideas. Let's talk about at least that idea and some of the other proposals that DFLers are making at the legislature here on gun safety.
Yeah, the tax, I agree. I think that's a great idea. Anytime you want less of something, it's a good idea to tax it. That has two strikes against it, though.
Yeah.
For any Republican votes, because they're against taxes in addition to gun control measures. So that's going to be a tough one. But I think it's important you have to get these ideas out there. You got to get them in discussion. You got to get you have to have some discussion inside the building, inside the Capitol, as well as you have to prime your outside interest groups, get momentum with them as well. So again, it's a long process. I don't see this passing, but it is certainly the right idea that we would, if you want to participate and be a gun owner, then you should have to pay the cost, the societal cost of widespread gun ownership. In the same way that we expect drivers to pay the cost of roads and polluters to pay the cost of cleaning up the environment, I think the same is true. If you want to participate in this hobby, and let's be honest, that's what it is, then you should have to help pay for the safety of it, and so we can use that money to enforce gun laws, restrict shadow buying, and that kind of thing. So that's certainly an excellent proposal, I think, but I don't see it going anywhere. The governor's also proposed the assault weapons ban, which he did last fall, ban on high capacity magazines, safe storage is another one, the mandatory reporting of lost or stolen firearms, and then some school safety measures as well.
Well, and as you mentioned, unlikely that any of these DFL proposals are going to go through, simply because the anti-gun safety caucus on the GOP side is so strong and united on really not passing these types of measures. And as you said, there could even be some outstate DFLers who would be uncomfortable with those measures. But let's take a look at the Republican side, because they do have their own ideas as well, including guaranteeing a school resource officer at every school in the state. They also support an increase in funding for mental health treatment beds and increased penalties for repeat gun violations, among others. I mean, on the surface, some of these sound like they could possibly be helpful, maybe in an indirect way. But even when we talk about the idea of increasing funding for mental health treatment, I'm always a little skeptical when it comes to Republicans increasing funding for something, saying, well, where are the strings attached? But I guess what I'm trying to ask, among all of these proposals for the Republicans, are DFLers receptive to any of what Republicans are proposing, or are they largely thinking that these are really not effective or don't go far enough in terms of dealing with gun violence here in our state?
Well, again, last fall, when there was some alleged negotiation discussion around these issues after the Annunciation shooting. They did not agree to meet in a special session. I mean, if there really were dollars behind, let's say, extra mental health spending, although it's important to note here that mental health and violence or gun violence are not correlated. So certainly we've seen in some of the high-profile incidents, the shooter seems to have been deeply disturbed and perhaps had untreated mental illness. But the average person who's suffers from some mental illness is not a threat to go out and shoot everyone. And it would be great if we didn't give people almost universal instant access to dangerous weapons. I think that would be a more important step. But the Democrats, they were not willing to go along with Republican proposals without getting anything in return, and nor should they. And so I think it's probably a non-starter. I also feel like putting a school resource officer, which is essentially a police officer in every school, is very expensive. And I think education advocates will rightly view that as money that could have gone to a teacher. Instead, we're spending on a police officer. And the entire their entire approach here is we need to make schools essentially hardened targets, but that's in response to this widespread availability of guns. And if we were like other civilized, rich democracies, we wouldn't have this gun problem. We wouldn't have to have security everywhere. Whether it be the mall or the schools, under this kind of crazy idea that if everybody has guns, we'll be safer. When obviously that's been shown not to be true.
Well, make sure you follow along with what's happening at the Capitol on possible gun bills, again, over at MinnesotaReformer.com. Again, MinnesotaReformer.com. And briefly, I want to switch gears and talk about another article that you guys wrote today that has to do with, fraud here in Minnesota. Because for decades, Minnesota has been warned that its social service programs were wide open to fraud, but those warnings were repeatedly ignored. That's a new report from the State Director of Program Integrity, Tim O'Malley, which traces those vulnerabilities all the way back to the 1970s, according to what he reported. In fact, one of the parts that at least jumped out to me was the idea that within state agencies, they prioritized compassion over compliance, specifically a 70-30 split, where you should be spending 70% of your energy or resources on compassion while 30% on compliance. So let's talk a little bit about that mentality, because that does sound like it's been very deeply entrenched within the services and probably will be reformed, I imagine, within the coming years or so. But yeah, something that's that entrenched is going to be very hard to undo. And I'm wondering also what kind of impact this report might have on legislators as well.
Yeah, I think this is a report that the legislature can use as something of a blueprint. O'Malley has a background with the FBI and the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, which he led under Republican Governor Tim Pawlenty. And you mentioned that the compassion over compliance. I think that people who go work in a place like the Department of Human Services, it's not their orientation to go look for fraudsters. And I totally get that. They got into the field to try to help people who need it. And so we're kind of asking quite a bit of them to become essentially kind of like almost cops on the beat to a certain extent, especially the way these programs were designed. And as you said, the report talks about these vulnerabilities that have been recognized for so long. And just what happened was, it was just waiting to be exploited. And then you get a network of people who maybe all communicate the vulnerabilities in the system, and then they just went wild with it in the last 10 years or so. And so here we are. But yeah, I mean, I think, and also I think it's worth pointing out that a lot of our services were privatized, meaning that we hire contractors, for-profit, non-for-profit, to do these tasks, to deliver services for people who are disabled or need medical care and so forth. And that exposes us to far more fraud, because if something is done in-house, it's much easier to catch. And so I hope that the legislature will take that into account as well, that with all of these, hundreds, thousands even of private providers, that is a hard thing to watch for compliance, as opposed to actual state employees who are pretty easy. I mean, if money goes missing from the Department of Human Services, that's much easier to catch than if a private provider is claiming to provide services and is not. And that's exactly what's gone on here. Is they've said they're providing these services to the disabled or and other people who need it, but they're just not providing it. And they're setting up entire companies just for this purpose. And so that's what's happened to us. And that's why our fraud is different than in many other states, where it's not uncommon for medical providers, for instance, to pad their billings, or they change the injury or illness to make it more lucrative to treat. In our case, we had people setting up companies for this the only purpose they had. They were not providing any service, or hardly any service. The only reason they set up the company was to defraud the government. And so that's kind of how our Medicaid fraud has been so different these last 10 years.
Yeah, glad you brought up that distinction as well to provide a little more context. Well, you can read more about Alyssa's reporting on that report that was just released over at MinnesotaReformer.com, titled Groundwork for Fraud in Minnesota Human Services Goes Back 50 Years, again, over at MinnesotaReformer.com. We have been speaking with Patrick Kulikan, who is the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer, who joins us every Tuesday to talk through some of the stories that they've been working on. Make sure you go to MinnesotaReformer.com. Patrick, as always, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Always a pleasure.
All right, let's take a break and send things back over to Matt McNeil on AM 950.
Are you tired of hearing how white European men discovered everything? Then 10,000 Things Theater's production of Men on Boats by Jacqueline Backhouse is for you. It features a cast of the people the first expedition to the Grand Canyon in 1869 left out, running February 19th through March 15th at 4 different locations, starting with Open Book in Minneapolis. Contact 10,000things.org. That's 10,000things.org.
Step into Forts, a fort-building wonderland at Children's Theater Company through April 5th. Theatrical elements, evolving light and soundscapes, and towers of cardboard boxes set the scene for creative play. Build the tallest fort, the longest fort, or tons of cozy little forts. Design a castle or a neighborhood. Your imagination leads the way as you play freely and create shared stories together in real life. Forts at CTC through April 5th. Spring break weekdays available. Tickets at childrenstheater.org.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067, or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
At Schroman Law, we provide more than just legal documents. We walk alongside our clients to ensure their wishes and legacies are being honored with every choice. And we do this while recognizing that this process can be emotional and weighty. Our team includes attorneys, as well as a grief coach and a published writer ready to assist with legacy letters and extra wishes to go alongside your healthcare directive. Contact us today to learn more at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Hearts and beliefs collide in the poignant comedy, The Cake, playing at Theater in the Round. Della is a talented Southern baker whose life changes when she's asked to create a wedding cake for her late best friend's daughter, who's marrying a woman. The production offers a tender and funny look at the complex intersection of faith and family. The Cake runs February 20th through March 15th at Theater in the Round. Tickets and more information at theaterintheround.org.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 10, then Wednesday, sunshine with a high of 21. The Great Wall has been your home for Chinese favorites since 1981. Don't miss the sesame chicken, mushu pork with Chinese pancakes, or Peking duck. Stop in at the restaurant on France Avenue and 45th Street along the Minneapolis-Edina City line, or check them out at greatwallrestaurant.us.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Oh, good. We now know who invited Kash Patel into the U.S. men's team locker room, and it's a local angle. U.S. team general manager Bill Guerin, also the Minnesota Wild's GM, told The Athletic via text that he's fine with Wild players Quinn Hughes, Matt Boldy, and Brock Faber going to the State of the Union and White House if they want to. He said he's not sure what other teams will decide. The Wild resume their season Thursday night at Colorado. The NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley told The Athletic that players can decide on an individual basis if they want to accept the invitation. Then it'll be up to their individual teams whether or not to grant permission. Trump said if they can work it out, it'll be honored to have you. Patel, invited into the locker room by his buddy Guerin, responded, "I got it, boss. I got it. I'm on it. I'm blanking on it." Okay. And once again, you're fine. Bill Guerin, you want to be MAGA, knock yourself out. Just FYI, child rape. Okay? Child rape. Child sex trafficking. Child rape. Bill Guerin, you want to snuggle up to that? Knock yourself out. That's seriously. If you want to snuggle up to that, that's your prerogative. You can think everyone in the world's lying. All those women are lying. And be on brand for a hockey player right now, a men's hockey player. But do me a favor. You guys need some new expanded luxury suites, or you need a new arena. Shut the F up. You don't need it for me. I'm a taxpayer. You want to be the Republican Party, Minnesota Wild, that's fine. Knock yourself out. When you need a new stadium, call your buddy Kash Patel. Hey, Cash is his first name. You can go get him to build you a stadium or expand your luxury seats. Knock yourself out. You want taxpayer dollars? Well, then go get your freaking taxpayer dollars, not from us, but from the Republicans. I don't care if you want to support somebody in private. That's your right. But you're very public with your Minnesota Wild stuff. And you stupid fools should have learned that from the damn Minnesota Vikings, who basically had to sell their team because Red McCombs was never going to get a stadium in this town. So, fine. He's your buddy. You love Trump, the man who pretty much, it's pretty clear, raped some children. That's your buddy. That's your pal. You stand by him, huh? Great. But don't look at me for taxpayer dollars. Don't look at me for taxpayer dollars. I can't wait for all when the truth comes out, all these hidden files the DOJ is frantically trying to keep hidden. When all the evidence comes out, oh yeah, definitely he's done all this. Can't wait for guys like this. Well, I didn't know that. I don't know. Why do you guys want to keep bringing that up? I don't know. You guys keep rubbing your MAGA love in our face. That's fine. You're in a very democratic city. You want to be snuggling up to MAGA, that's fine. Just don't ask me for taxpayer dollars for your freaking stadiums. Republicans can fund those for you if you want. And then I don't have any freaking problem. If you do this, go get the money from the Republicans. Go get Trump's making tons of money, jamming money from crypto into his pocket, grifting the world, the biggest cheating of all time. He's got tons of money. Go get your new stadium money from him. And then I could care less if you're like Trump. Knock yourself out. Go. At that point, go get a litany of Republican players or Putin players. Kind of the same thing. Go ahead. Knock yourself out. I could care less. It's just that you clowns want taxpayer dollars. Oh, stadiums get you championships. Do they? Do they? No, you guys want to sit there and act like this is no big deal. I don't know. All I'm going to say is this. You want to be a Republican? That's fine. Then stop asking the metro area for your freaking taxpayer dollars for your stadium. I get tired of you clowns basically like, we need a stadium. We should be able to put our political differences aside. Well, if you can't, I'm not going to. And once again, I'm only going off of your lead. I've criticized stadiums. I don't have any problem with, we can have the debate on the stadiums. You're the guys that basically snuggled up with the Republicans. That's on you. Me seeing you do that is not me bringing it up. That's you guys being dumb enough to basically, in an industry which is desperate for taxpayer dollars for your monuments to sport. It's fine. And I guarantee you, I imagine, to make sure that all the sports media in town get the free bobbleheads and the posters and, the good seats for a game, that all the sports media people will say, I don't know why these guys are complaining about this whole thing. It's no big deal. Well, no, you need taxpayer dollars. You want to be a Republican? Fine. Go get your money from the Republicans. I could care less at that point. I probably won't watch your product because you're Republicans, but don't hat and hand it to me when all of a sudden I need 4 more luxury suites so that the wealthy people can see the game that you guys can't afford to get into. All right. Seriously. Bill Guerin was the guy. Bill Guerin was the guy that, wow. All right. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Some things, by the way, if you've not seen Last Week Tonight from last week with John Oliver, where he talks about Twitter, he does that very good thing. I've talked about how the Republican Party of Minnesota was basically responsible for bringing ICE in here, that the ICE agents that killed Renee Good and Alex Preddy. He lays it out fantastic. The only piece missing is he starts with Nick Shirley. He doesn't explain, well, Nick Shirley seems to have been, at the very least, helped greatly by the Minnesota Republican Party. But he might have actually been invited and brought around or helped or paid by the Minnesota Republican Party. And it lays it all out there perfectly. And once again, even John Oliver kind of says, does this guy think that he should be able to barge into any daycare with a camera and film kids? I'm still waiting for the Republican or the Democratic Party to, maybe not the Democratic Party, the prosecutors in Minneapolis, Hennepin County, to sort of say, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have people basically thinking they can kick open the door of a daycare and terrorize kids with a camera when they don't have parental consent or consent from the owner of the daycare to be in there. Still waiting for you guys to file charges there. And same thing with the neo-Nazi guy that was firing paintballs and bear spray at protesters without cause. You guys want to see it keep dropping that ball. And once again, I'm going to bring up, what makes it frustrating to be a Democrat is that, remember I brought up the ambassador stuff at the end of the last hour? Dead serious. Say we took the one incident with the Polish ambassador, the Trump's Polish ambassador. That one incident would cripple a Democratic administration, because every Republican would be demanding resignations. Every news outlet in the country would be like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And it doesn't even get any traction. The bipolar way that we deal with crisis in this country is really breaking us. But what is making me more and more frustrated every day is when we have legitimate things we could do as Democrats, and then Democrats, oh, well, if we do that, we're going to look like we're partisan. Well, we'd better not. They're going to run an ad against me that says I'm a Democrat like those Nancy Pelosi San Francisco liberals. You only dream you were a Pelosi San Francisco liberal, let's be honest about it. No, I'm tired of it. You can charge these people. You can stand up. I had Elliot Engen. We talked about this guy who went on and said, I have access to a donor list for the nonprofit Ice Out Minnesota, a donor list which hasn't had to be turned in yet to the federal government, let alone even if it was, it wouldn't be public because it's 501c3. So either he has a donor list, which he may or may not be legitimate, but there's no idea if he's confirmed it, or he was given access, or he's lying. And I don't quite know why is it you Democrats you guys need to realize part of the reason why we're in the position we're at right now is your apathetic crap ass attitude towards these things. The Merrick Garland, you have him dead to rights for trying to overthrow the government. And you let him, I better slow walk this one or else they're going to call me partisan. Freaking idiot. It's just amazing to me how much the Democrats could do if they just copied 1/10 of the Republican playbook. But Republicans never have to account for their behavior or activities. Democrats always have to. Well, we need to be 20 times better than them. And that's fine. You want to be like that. But when they serve you a freaking feast on the platter, go ahead and dive on in. Stop with this whole, I don't know, if we start going and investigating them, they're investigating you. Governor Walz introduced the gun violence prevention program. Now, of course, Cooligan talked about that with Brett. One thing that you might have missed a little bit today, though, was a major ruling and a settlement. Well, I don't think it's a ruling, a settlement. The state of Minnesota has got significant policy changes and a $1 million settlement from Fleet Farm over disregarding warning signs and selling guns to straw buyers, including one man whose illegal purchases played a role in a downtown St. Paul mass shooting several years ago. The agreement between the Attorney General's office and the retailer based in Appleton, Wisconsin, came in a consent decree filed on February 24th in U.S. District Court, nearly 3.5 years after the state sued Fleet Farm. It took Fleet Farm to court after the company put the lives of Minnesotans in danger by ignoring clear warning signs and selling guns to straw buyers, read a statement from Attorney General Keith Ellison. This is, by the way, one of the great little dirty secrets of Republican rural America. The majority of guns that are getting on the streets in the inner city, it's not like this is Lex Luthor knocking over a gun truck that's coming through town. No, these guns are bought by white people in rural America and then driven in and sold at a premium price out of the back of their truck to the people in the inner city. And if you basically made it, I don't know if you could put a limit on how many guns a person could own, but if you basically said, well, you have to contact the police anytime a gun is missing, and if you don't, that's a crime, you would probably stop this, because there have been so many freaking times in the last 20 some years where we've had a case where, there's a gun gets used in a crime, and it's like, well, that was a gun I had in my truck unsecured, and it disappeared 4 years ago. I had no idea where it went. Well, why didn't you call the police? I didn't have to. Like, the police knowing where a gun should be is not an important thing. That happens all the time. Those are straw buyers. Those are basically these guys that supplement their income by buying guns out in rural Minnesota and then driving them into the metro area and selling them to the people that use them in crimes. There, if you want, and that's the dirty little secret of Republicans. They know that's going on right now, and they have stopped repeatedly any kind of law going into effect that would stop that. Because that's just Zeke. He's making a few bucks, man. Just because Zeke is making a few bucks doesn't mean, when he sells it to someone illegally, it's not like he knows it's going to be used in a crime. Think about the logic of these people. So good on, I will admit that Fleet Farm basically acknowledging they've got some problems, and they did. The suit was filed about a year after a Minneapolis man illegally bought and resold one of the pistols during a mass shooting in 2021 at the 7th Street Truck Bar in St. Paul. That's the one across from Casetas. Left a woman dead, more than a dozen people wounded. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms traced the gun to Jerome Horton, who'd bought it, and 2 others at a Fleet Farm. Starting in June 2021, Horton bought 33 guns, including many that investigators said he illegally sold to others, according to the ATF. He was convicted and sentenced to slightly more than 2 years in prison. Once the court signs off the consent decree, as anticipated, the Attorney General's office can make public Fleet Farm documents it received in the course of the legal action that include warnings a store manager raised about the straw sale. So it's not like Fleet Farm itself was all bad. I mean, there were people there like, this guy is buying a lot of guns. Basically, warnings that Fleet Farm ignored. Those warnings from a store manager in Blaine included concerns about guns being bought by Horton. In a typical straw purchase scenario, the buyer has no felony conviction or other factor disqualifying them from owning a gun, but they are really buying it for someone else. Of course, they had that horrible shooting in the South Metro, which was the girlfriend had bought the gun for the guy because he was not supposed to have one. So, this is how you fight this stuff. And once again, this is working within the parameters of the law. I know that Republicans will fight this stuff, but, the Second Amendment doesn't allow you to basically buy as many guns and sell them illegally to other people. And if we start taking that element seriously, that white rural Americans are buying these guns and driving them into the cities, and it's not just here, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, this happens everywhere. People drive in with guns and sell them on the streets, make a bunch of money, and head on back home. We start taking that seriously, we dry up that source, gun violence will plummet. Gun violence will plummet. And guess what? You haven't actually taken any guns away from anybody. You've just stopped the illegal sale of them. Ta-da! 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Tuesday.
There really is no place like home. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Home Health. When you're faced with an illness or an injury, being able to stay at home and receive care is important. Our home health offers a wide range of services, including skilled nursing, physical, occupational, and speech therapies, aides, homemakers, in-home respite care, and 24/7 live-in care. We'll work closely with your primary care provider to come up with an individualized plan for you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
Hey, Chanhassen in Eden Prairie, it's Alex with Buzz Cut Mowing. Why wake up early, freeze, and shovel snow when I can handle it for you? I provide fast, reliable snow removal so your driveway and sidewalks stay clear, safe, and stress-free all winter long. Relax, enjoy your morning coffee, and let me do the heavy lifting. Visit buzzcutmowingmn.com today and make this winter easier, warmer, and worry-free with Buzz Cut Mowing, because nobody likes shoveling snow.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. February is the month for love, so when was the last time you gave your carpet the love and attention it deserves? Maybe you've been procrastinating on the holiday post-mortem cleanup at your house. Are you worried if you got down on your hands and knees what you might see or smell? Not only is your carpet one of the biggest investments in your home, but it's also the largest air filter in your home. And what's worse, you're going to be stuck inside breathing this nasty stuff for months. Lucky for you, Zero Res is going to spread the love to you and your home. This month, get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $119 and take $75 off your air duct cleaning. Call my friends at Zero Res right now, 952-ZERO-RES, or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. A 4.9 rating on Google reviews and over 21,000 satisfied customers can't be wrong. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I've been telling you about my friends at Snap Construction, who are arguably the most well-reviewed exterior construction company in the metro. Don't just take my word for it. Take a look at all their reviews online. Winter is the most cost-effective time of the year to complete your construction project. A majority of Minnesotans choose to have their work completed on their home in the summer when they should be enjoying the weather. As a result, the demand for labor in the summer is much higher. The most cost-effective way to improve or restore your home is in the winter due to the lower demand. Right now, Snap Construction is offering an additional 30% off of labor to the AM 950 listeners on your next construction project between now and the end of February. Call 612-333-SNAP and mention AM 950 for an additional 30% off. As always, Snap Construction stands by their work with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Don't wait to get a free estimate by calling 612-333-SNAP or find them online at snapconstruction.com. Financing options available.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Nice to have you with us here today. By the way, let me, if you're with the mothership here, and I am your mother, AM 950 in Minneapolis, St. Paul. First of all, coming up after my show, it is the absolute privilege of mine to be the lead-in for Native Roots Radio. Robert Pilot and crew coming on in here. Native American news. You just don't hear about this, and it's here. We actually have a show dedicated to Native American news, and trust us, we'd be a much better country if we listened to the Native Americans. We would. All right, make sure you're listening for that. That's coming up next after my show here. Patty Vasquez on the air, of course, down in Chicago, but on the air here, 9 o'clock tonight, and then Greg Bakken, Ghost Box Radio. You like spooky stuff? Well, have I got a guy for you. Greg Bakken, it's good. It's Ghost Box Radio, ghosts, aliens, all that, psychics, all that stuff. Bigfoot, occasionally a Squatch sighting, Loch Ness Monster, all that stuff. 10 o'clock tonight right here on AM 950. Minnesota's, I talked a little bit earlier about one of the good things that's happened is we did have a fraud problem here. And as the study that came out showed, it's not a recent thing. We've had fraud issues because there has been this mentality within our state government for 50 years, basically, that what's the point? What's the point of doing this, and people not doing their jobs and people not putting the money aside to make sure that programs are not being abused. And now that these programs were being abused, we're kind of locking down on that. And that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with having accountability and making sure programs that are designed as social safety net programs to help people with a specific cause, that they are funded for those people that need it, as opposed to stealing that money and putting it in their pocket. And all those sons of bees should basically be prosecuted. Absolutely. Now that we are in this point, there's a program that just started. Minnesota is in its second full month of the sweeping new paid leave policy that impacts almost all residents. The program director, Greg Norfleet, gave an update Monday how things are going. The first thing I can report, and you don't get to say this too often, is the rollout of paid leave came in $70 million under budget, Norfleet said, and the extra money is going to go back into the pool of money used to pay claims. The program is paid through payroll tax with the expenses shared with employers. Almost 48,000 people have applied since the program started in November. That's right, we have this in Minnesota. Bam, this is a good thing. Minnesota's a great place. If you've not been here, come on up here. We like you. 20,000 of those saw their applications denied. So at 48,000, 20,000 were denied. That means 28,000 were not. The payout does not fully replace your salary. The average weekly payout is $1,121. Out of the gate, the majority of the applications have been for bonding. But since January, we have seen an uptick in the number of applications for medical leave, combined with these two areas, combined with the two types of needed for 90% of our applicants. And to clarify, bonding in this sense means the precious time spent between newborns and parents. So that's the bonding that they have. No one's a surprise. Women make up 62% of those taking leave. Men account for 31%. There you go. There you go. Decades have had problems, but now that we're paying attention to this, guess what? This program's come in under budget, $70 million under budget, and it's working. Parents are getting time with their kids, and people are not having to stress out. Bravo! Bravo! This is how you do it. This is how you do it. Keep up the good work. We'll be back on a Wednesday with Jeff Stein. Until then, see ya.
In today's uncertain times, Woodlands